G'day everyone and welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I'm going to be going through my bottom 10 AFL ladder predictions. And if you guys do go on to enjoy this video, could you please show me that by liking the video as well as subscribing to the channel if you guys are new, and also hit that notification bell so you can be notified when my top 8 AFL ladder predictions come out. Enough wasting your time, let's just get straight into it. And the 18th position receiving the back-to-back wooden spoon is the Richmond Tigers. In my opinion, they have only just begun their so-called downfall, and just like most teams, I think they're going to have to experience what it's like to be on the bottom of the ladder for a little longer until they can start beginning a rebuild. In the past, we've seen this with teams like North Melbourne and West Coast who stay at the bottom of the ladder for a few years and then slowly start to rise. Unfortunately, North Melbourne haven't been as lucky as some teams. Despite the amount of players that they did pick up during this draft, there's just not enough room in the side for all of them to be playing every single week, no matter how good the players are. Don't get me wrong, I think all of these players will make their debut this year, but quite frankly, there's never going to be a time where all 8 of these new draftees are in the same side. In the 17th position, I have the Adelaide Crows. My reason behind this isn't a very good one, if I'm being brutally honest. And it's simply just because I don't think they were very active during the draft and trade period. To be fair, I think Alex Neer-Bullen will be a great addition to their side, as well as James Peeling and Isaac Cumming, of course. But I just don't think these 3 players will be making that impact the Crows are looking for. Although one player I would like to mention is Sid Draper, who was picked up at pick 3 during this year's AFL draft. I think he should go on to do some amazing things for this club, and I can't wait to see how he goes and plays in front of a home crowd of 50,000 at the Adelaide Oval. In 15th spot, jumping up one place, I have the North Melbourne Kangaroos. I think from this year forward, we will slowly start to see a bit of improvement from this side. In fact, I believe around the middle of this season, I think people are going to start speculating that North Melbourne might actually be able to just sneak out of the bottom 4 this year, but then have a rough end to the season and finish in this 16th position. They do have a few young players who I believe will have a bit more of an impact this year, but I believe that in 2027 North Melbourne might be starting to push a little bit to make that top 8 and be playing some finals football once again. Moving on to 15th, another team that is just going to be jumping the one spot is the West Coast Eagles. I know there's a few people speculating that maybe this team actually has some potential to escape that bottom 4 this year, and I won't deny that they are going to have a little bit of improvement this year, which is why I do have them jumping up one spot, but I just don't think they have what it takes to be playing some game-breaking football, and I just don't see them getting back into that rhythm for another few years. And despite the draft picks they had this year and the controversial pick 3 that was given up for Matthew Owies, I think they are in a bit of a tough position at the moment, as some of their more experienced players are probably going to be calling it quits this year, and a few of their younger players probably just need a little bit more work going on before we can say that they actually have a bit more potential. For example, a player like Harley Reid, he played absolutely sensational for the West Coast Eagles for 2024. He played exactly how everyone expected him to. So I think give him a few more years, train him a bit more harder, and I think he might actually go out to be an absolute gun for the Eagles if he is still choosing to play for them by the time that 2028 rolls around. And I wouldn't be surprised if around the 2028 mark he's probably pushing for a bit of a Brownlow medal around his neck. In the 14th position, I have selected the Essendon Bombers. Now, this might come as a bit of a shock for some of you guys, as this is a club that only barely missed finals this year. But don't get me wrong, they had many chances to make finals this year and just came down to poor performance at the end of this season. But I think this year is their chance to shock everyone and finish inside that top 8, but I just don't know if I can trust them enough to do so, which is why I do have them dropping a little. I have Kako as a new addition to their club, and I wouldn't be shocked if he goes on to be a decent player, but until I actually see him play on the field, I can't have my own opinions on him just yet. I don't really have enough information that backs him up either. In the 13th spot, relatively similar to the place that they finished last year, is the St Kilda Saints. The Saints are a very odd team in the context that you just don't know how they're going to play. They can have an absolutely sensational pre-season, and then they just go out to be a very average team for the AFL world. You'll see them play good football one season and then very average football the next. And I really want this club to have a good season this year, but I think there's just so many other teams that have more potential than the Saints in 2025. Although there are a few new additions to their club which could persuade me to have them a little bit higher than expected. They have 2016 Premiership Bulldog Jack McRae, who will no doubt make a solid impact on their team, as well as Toby Travaglia and obviously Alex Tyrou, who they picked up in the draft. But until I see how they perform, I can't have my own opinions on them just yet, and I can't say if they're going to make too much of an impact or let alone make their debut this year. Onto the 12th position, I have the Melbourne Demons. Despite me not placing them too much higher than their previous 2024, I think the Demons have a bright 2025 ahead of them, as it looks like Christian Petrarca is coming back as a stronger player than he was pre-injury. And I've seen a few photos and videos of Clayton Oliver training. It looks like he could go on to be a pretty decent player this year, considering he had a pretty poor 2024. Although to make improvements, it did come with a bit of a sacrifice, letting go of Alex Neil-Bullen, but hopefully that doesn't make too much of an impact on their team. I still believe that they can go on to achieve things that fans can only dream of, but I just don't think they're quite there to be playing some finals football again. On the 11th position, I've got the Carlton Blues. I feel like I'm about to get flamed in the comments for this one. I think the Blues still have some potential going into this season, but I just don't know if I can trust them enough after what they did last year. Where the same thing happened with not only Carlton, but also Essendon and Collingwood. There was a period midway through the season where Essendon, Carlton and Collingwood were all sitting in the top 4 pretty comfortably, and by the end of the season, Collingwood finished 9th, Essendon finished 11th, and Carlton only just snuck into the 8th, and if Fremantle won their last game of the season, Carlton would be out of there. I would still argue that Carlton are still contenders for that beautiful Premiership Cup at the end of 2025, but there's also a world where I see them finishing as low as 13th. But if we're taking into consideration that Charlie Curnow could be back to his Coleman winning potential, and Cripps may be searching for that back-to-back Brownlow, then maybe by the time the AFL season rolls around, I could change my opinion on this team. But currently, I just think they're going to finish in the 11th position. In 10th spot, I have the Gold Coast Suns. Funnily enough, I do recall a lot of hype building up around the Gold Coast Suns before the 2024 season, and we saw how much they flopped this year. I mean, some people were predicting them to finish in the top 8 that year, with the main reason simply being because Damien Hardwick was taking over as the coach. Which, don't get me wrong, Dimmer has been able to form this Gold Coast side into a way better team than their previous 2023, but I think their struggle to win away games was just a massive issue, and I believe that probably will be a patch they're going to have to work on a little bit this year, and will slowly move up the ranks in the next few years. And I'm proud to say the Gold Coast Suns will have some improvement in 2025. Or in other words, new logo, new Gold Coast. And the final prediction, in 9th spot, I have the Western Bulldogs. When I was first writing these predictions, I was almost about to put the Western Bulldogs in the top 6 of this season. But after reviewing a few other teams and how likely they are to succeed this year, the Western Bulldogs only just missed out. They obviously let Bailey Smith go during the trade period this year, which everyone already knew was going to happen before the 2024 season even began. They also lost Premiership winning Bulldog Jack McRae, as I mentioned earlier, and North Melbourne took Caleb Daniels from them as well. But I guess one positive that came out of the Western Bulldogs during that trade period is they picked up Matthew Kennedy as well as pick 17, and they went on to draft Cooper Hines. And to find out my top 8 AFL ladder predictions, you're going to have to go down there and like the video as well as subscribing to the channel if you guys are new, with notifications to notify yourself when the top 8 predictions do come out. And I hope to see you all there or any other future videos here on the channel. Peace.